Hey friends, Ash here with Gents. Hope that you're doing well out there. Today we're going to be talking about long-lasting office-safe fragrances. So fragrances that you could wear to work, that are going to get you through the day pretty easily, that are maybe not quite as obvious as some of the more typical office-safe fragrances that are talked about. And some of these, when you see them, you may not think of them as office-safe fragrances at all, or office fragrances, I guess. You might think of them more as like a clubbing scent or an evening scent or something like that. But each one of these I've successfully worn to the office. It's gone smooth as silk. You just maybe don't want to spray them on as much as you might when you're going out like to a club or a bar or something like that. That's big brain, I know, but depending on your situation, maybe modulate your sprays up or down. So let's go ahead and jump into it, guys. 10 different office-safe fragrances that are really long-lasting. And as we jump into these, let me bless you once again with those codes that you hear about all the time. Gents10 is the code for twistedlily.com. Save yourself 10% off the entire website when you use that code. And I'll have a link in the description to that. All these fragrances and the next website, jomashop.com. Use the code GENTS8 there to save yourself $8 off any order over 110. All right, let's crack into this list. Now I'm going to start this off with the fragrance that I was really referencing when I talked about a clubbing fragrance. It is from Versace and it is Eros, the Eau de Toilette. I wore this all the time to the office and it always worked really well. And I've spoken about this in the past as well. Some people don't give Eros a whole lot of credit for the versatility. They do just say, oh, it's a clubbing scent. That's it. It's a night out scent. It's loud, it's bubblegummy, it's sweet, it's youthful, and they just ride it off. But with Versace Eros, you could really almost pull this off year-round, daytime or nighttime, just according to how many sprays you wear. If you don't go really heavy with Eros, it smells awesome in the air and people absolutely love it, which is why this is one of the best-selling fragrances on the market today. And yes, it is absolutely office safe as long as you don't go really heavy with it. If you go really heavy with it, it's not going to work as well, especially if you've got some older ladies that work in the office with you. I know from experience, you spray something a little bit too heavily, something like this, and it's not going to go over as well. But you go a little bit lighter, it's going to smell awesome. So that one, of course, has mint, apple, tonka, and ambroxan as some of the notes in the fragrance. And Versace Eros, the Eau de Toilette, would be my personal choice for an office fragrance out of the line. I know some people might think, nah, that's the most youthful of the bunch, but I think versatility-wise, that one might be the best for that situation. Next up, we have a Guerlain, and it's L'Instant de Guerlain Extreme. Now, this is my bottle. This is an older vintage bottle. It does not look like this anymore. Also, it's not even called L'Instant de Guerlain Extreme anymore. Now it's L'Instant de Guerlain Eau de Parfum. So if you're buying this fragrance new today, it's gonna have a different bottle, which is gonna look like this, and it's also gonna have a slightly different name, but the scent overall is pretty much the same. I say pretty much because between the two, I'd much rather have this one, and this one is overall a bit better in my opinion, but for 99.9% of people out there, it's not gonna be worth it at all to pay the jacked up price to get one of these, and trust me, the price on these is jacked nowadays versus just getting it from a discounter in the new form. Now this one has star anise, as citrus, as cacao, as patchouli. It's a more grown-up fragrance, a more formal fragrance. It's the type of scent that maybe you would wear on a night out if you were going somewhere much more high-end as compared to Eros, which is much more on the party side of things as a night out scent, or at least it's thought of as that way. This carries on in the tradition of having Guerlain fragrances smell of an absolutely fantastic quality, and at discounters going for close to nothing compared to how the scent itself actually smells. Absolutely fantastic. I do think with that one though, like with Eros, don't go really heavy with it, because that fragrance, if you go really heavy in the office, it's gonna come across a little bit out of place. Go lighter on the trigger though, nice. Same with this one, actually. Moustache Eau de Parfum. Now, I will say that Moustache Eau de Toilette is probably overall, just in terms of the scent profile, how it comes across, a better office fragrance than Moustache Eau de Parfum. Moustache Eau de Toilette has more of that throwback masculine freshness, a little bit reminiscent of something like Eau Sauvage Eau de Toilette, but I would say that Moustache Eau de Toilette is actually easier to pull off nowadays for more people. Moustache Eau de Toilette, though, does not have the performance of Moustache Eau de Parfum. So this one, it smells a bit similar to Yves Saint Laurent's Tuxedo. Really nice quality once again here. Like I mentioned, a good amount of sweetness in this fragrance, and it is considered more of a night out scent. This one has benzoin, vanilla, pink pepper, and a little touch of cedar in there as well. It's a very, very good fragrance, got a lot of hype, and for good reason. If you can find this for a nice price at a discounter, absolutely worth checking out. From there, a gentleman fragrance, Gentleman Boisee. Now you could choose a lot of the gentleman fragrances and say that you could use those in the office. I would absolutely agree. The iris in that line of fragrances smells fantastic. This one also has cacao in it. It has sandalwood and black pepper. It's not quite as deep, not quite as heavy smelling off the skin as Gentleman Eau de Parfum is. So I would probably pick this one, or Gentleman Eau de Toilette Intense, Gentleman Cologne, maybe even the new Reserve Privé over the original Eau de Toilette or Eau de Parfum in the line. But I had to pick just one for this list because I can't throw out, 5 of them and have half the list taken up by Gentleman. If you love iris-based fragrances though, absolutely check out the Gentleman line if you have not, and that one is a great office scent. From there, a Parfums de Marly. We're going with Galloway. Galloway smells similar to Lalique's White to an extent, though the quality here obviously is going to be a bit higher, as is the price tag. This one has citrus, musk, orange blossom, and pepper as some of the notes in the fragrance, and that muskiness really comes through in the scent. Galloway, at this point, gets overlooked in the Parfums de Marly lineup, which really does make sense. I mean, fragrances like Herod or Leighton or even Pegasus, those are gonna get you more attention overall, and I do think that they have a little bit more of a wow factor for people than this one does. But this one is a great, safe choice. Smells very classy, very well done. And if you were looking for a Parfums de Marly office scent, that's probably the first one I would point you to. And like most Parfums de Marly fragrances, the performance is really good. And like a lot of Parfums de Marly fragrances at discounters, actually it's not all that expensive as far as niche goes. Then an absolute classic, a very easy choice, a very obvious choice, Terre d'Hermes from Hermes. For me, Terre d'Hermes is always one of the top 3 designers. If you're talking straight up, classy, gentlemanly, grown-up, sophisticated work fragrances, Terre d'Hermes is always going to be in the top 3. Now maybe you have your personal favorite. Maybe it's the original, the Eau de Toilette here. Maybe it's the Pure Parfum. Maybe Eau Intense Vetiver, Eau Très Fraîche. But one of the Terre d'Hermeses has to be in a list like this. It has a great earthy, kind of dirty orange opening, that vetiver that I talked about, great woodiness to the fragrance, a flinty kind of minerality as well. Terre d'Hermes is a killer fragrance, killer scent. And I have 2 bottles of the original here. A big, huge one, and then this normal size bottle. Now an Acqua de Parma, and there are quite a few Acqua de Parmas that would work for this list. I have Colonia Essenza right here. Neroli, citrus, jasmine, petitgrain, some of the notes in the fragrance as this classic Italian cologne style to it. It's much fresher than most of the other fragrances in the list here today, because really the main base note that comes out here, the foundation, is musk. So that's mixing together with these other aromatic notes and citrus notes, and it just makes it come across as a much livelier fragrance, you might say, than these other choices. And whereas some of these other ones, maybe you dial them back a little bit because they do have that warmth to them, they have that richness, that depth, and you don't want to overwhelm people. This one, you can spray on like normal. The performance is still going to be there. It's just maybe a little bit easier to pull off than some of these others in the office. And oftentimes Acqua de Parma is one of those brands, as I've spoken about with a couple of these fragrances, that at discounters goes for a really good price, marked off heavily. So if you're shopping smart, then you probably want to look for those most of the time at a discounter, whichever one you like to use. I mean, if you want to pay full retail, obviously knock yourself out. I'm just saying it's one of those houses that oftentimes you find their fragrances for $50, $60, $70. Up next, a Bentley fragrance. It's Bentley For Men Absolute. I would pick Absolute over Intense, even though Intense is the one that most people talk about. It's the one from Bentley that people know the most. This one, I think, a little bit better suited for the office. You could also go Bentley For Men Black Edition. That one would work. Absolute smells similar to the discontinued Gucci Pour Homme, the original Gucci Pour Homme 1. Now, when you look at the note breakdown here, it does not look like an office safe fragrance. Straight up, it doesn't at all. It's got oud in there, which is a red flag for a lot of people. They're not going to wear an oud fragrance to the office. There's also cedar, olibanum, and papyrus. Yeah, I got a little bit of a different note breakdown there. It's got a great smokiness to it, an incensey feel. And as I said, a similarity to Gucci Pour Homme 1, which is very expensive nowadays. And so for most people, just like with this one, it's not going to make sense for them to get the original because the price is just restrictive. So at that point, maybe you want something similar, and that's where this steps in. Similar, but way cheaper. It's another one I wouldn't go crazy heavy with, but it does have a great gentlemanly feel to it, which is ultimately a lot of times what you're looking for in an office fragrance, something that makes you smell well put together. Then we got one from Masque Milano. It is Hemingway, or homage to Hemingway. I spoke about vetiver earlier with Terre d'Hermes, and there are a lot of vetiver fragrances that I could have put into this video, but I didn't want it to be, 80%, 90% vetiver fragrances. I could have done that, would have been easy, but I wanted to step back from that a little bit. But I do still need to put some vetiver forward fragrances in here, and this one is a very nice one. It has rhubarb off the top, a note that I love, great tartness from that. Not a huge amount of rhubarb though, to be fair. That vetiver comes out pretty much right away, and with this fragrance you get multiple different types of vetiver. There's also leather in here and ginger, the ginger mixing together with the rhubarb, so it gives it a little bit of a pop, a little zestiness in the opening. But back to the vetiver, can come across a bunch of different ways. Depending on what type of vetiver is used and how it's used, you can have vetiver that smells very grassy, very dry, very smoky, very woody. A lot of different ways that it can come across, and this has a lot of those facets in the scent. It's actually one of my favorites from Masque Milano, but I do have to caution you, you have to like vetiver. You have to be a fan. If you're not, you won't like this one because that is really the focal point of the fragrance. Like I said, right there at the opening, through the mid, into the dry down, you're not going to escape it. If you like vetiver, then you're gonna dig this one a bunch because you're gonna get all those different facets, those nuances from the vetiver. It's gonna really set the fragrance apart for you. Last but not least, Narciso Rodriguez Bleu Noir Eau de Parfum. This has vetiver in it as well as cedar and amber, but those aren't really the main things that push the fragrance forward for me. For me, ultimately, it's actually the muskiness that's in here. It's a really nice musk. It's a clean white musk, so it doesn't have very much of that animalic kind of tone to it. No Koros type animalic stuff going on here, which to be fair, if you want to rock Koros to the office, absolutely knock yourself out. Back to this one though, very clean with that woody undertone, little hint of sweetness, very easy to pull off. This one, one of the easier going office fragrances of the bunch here. Narciso Rodriguez, a house that maybe doesn't get as much love as it deserves as compared to some of the other bigger names out there, but they consistently put out fragrances that smell high quality, that are very wearable, and have their own kind of flair. So there we go, 10 long-lasting office fragrances. All these you can wear to the office. And really, I think I just want you guys to open your mind a little bit as to what could be considered an office fragrance. But as long as you have an understanding of the fragrance that you're wearing, you can pull it off a lot more places than you might think. All right, guys, that does it for me. I'm out of here. Thank you for hanging with me. Thanks for your support. Stay safe out there, guys. And let me know in the comments, actually, some of the office fragrances you wear that are really long lasting, that perform well for you. See you guys later.